Morning students. Today we will be discussing on report writing, most particularly individual and committee reports. You know, in the business world, communication, formal or informal, is very vital. Formal and informal communication, they form the baseline of the business. Report writing essentially is a document that is logically presented through facts, figures, data, the analysis of the information in the form of a document which is written to investigate, present, analyze the information that suits various objectives. Reports are written to suit various objectives. On the basis of objectives, the types of reports can be routine reports and special reports. Now, if we move on to the next slide, you will see the different kinds of routine reports. Routine reports are those reports that are written to suit the day-to-day official organizational work. These reports can be the progress reports, that is, which focus on the reports of a work that has been carried out during a period of time. The report can be inspection report if there is an engineering site and the progress and the inspection of the site is going on, then the authority submits an inspection report. The performance report, that can also be termed as appraisal report if they are suited to the performance of an individual. Then we have periodic report, that is annual report, monthly report, half-yearly report of the organization. Now we move on to the special reports. The most common of the special reports are first information report that we see in investigative report. Investigative report focuses on a particular problem or an issue. For example, if there is an unrest, workers' unrest in an organization, then an authority will be taking care of that issue, probing the issue deep, focusing on the causes of the unrest and then bringing about the recommendations so that the problem may be resolved. Then we have feasibility report, the probability report which is written before the starting of a manufacturing unit or the launching of a product, or it can be also a survey report if an individual initiates a manufacturing unit. He focuses on the kind of raw material required, the resources required, the funds required, the expenses, and submits a feasibility report. Then we have the project report. For example, as students, you are given different assignments, and on those assignments you submit your project reports. Please note that each of the report has a different structure. Now we move on to the kinds of reports on the basis of the members. If there is only one individual involved in the entire process of report writing, then that report is individual report. If the report is being submitted by a committee, that is, there is a chairperson of the committee and the group members working in coordination with the chairperson, then the report is committee report. Now we move on to the next slide, where you will come across the differences between individual and the committee report. These differences will help you understand the two different types of report, not only in terms of their structure, in terms of their presentation, but also in terms of the style in which they are drafted. As the slide shows, individual report is written by one person, and you already know that the committee report is submitted by a group of people, that is the members. Individual report can be written in the letter format as well as the schematic format. We will be discussing the schematic format in the coming slides. Whereas the main difference is that committee report is always presented in the schematic form. Please note the difference that individual report can be written in the letter or the schematic form, whereas the committee report is always written in the schematic form. When we come to the style, an individual report is written in the personal style, as the use of the first person pronoun I is there. In an impersonal style, we avoid the usage of the first person pronoun and try to be impersonal. The another difference that is quite vital is that individual report can be written in active as well as passive voice. The construction of the sentences can be both in the active as well as the passive voice, including the third form of the main verb. Whereas the committee report witnesses sentences constructed mostly in passive voice. These are the major differences that will help you strike out the two types of reports, that is individual as well as the committee report. Now we move on to the jitters that obstruct the approach of writing a report. These jitters can be related to the style, related to the structure, related to the language usage. Now, if we want to write and document an effective report that suits the purpose, and I want my students to please remember that report writing is an instrument in decision making. The suggestions and recommendations that are provided in the report help the authorities, as it is an example of upward communication, to draft and take the decision that suits the need and the time. So, what is most important is that the report writer should determine the purpose of report. Now, in order to focus on the purpose of the report writer should basically analyze the audience, that is, who is the receiver of your report, whether the receiver belongs to the same field or the same department, or the audience or the receiver belongs to another field, another stream, which can be technical, or the receiver can be even a layman. So, an efficient and effective report writer always drafts the report keeping in mind the audience. Now we move on to the structure of the report. The structure of the report can be understood in the two different formats, as it is clear on the slide. Please pay attention to the slide. On your left hand side, first you will find one structure that focuses on abstract, introduction, methodology, findings, discussions, conclusion, recommendations, references, and appendices. This particular structure suits the schematic form of report, that is the committee report. Now on the right hand side, you'll find another structure, another format of the schematic report, which is prevalent. That includes title, abstract or terms of reference, introduction as well as objective, procedure of gathering information, methodology, findings and analysis based on the information gathered through different sources, that is primary and the secondary sources, conclusion, which is again based on the findings and analysis, recommendations provided by the report writer to resolve, overcome an issue or take proper decision. Then references. The report writer provides the list of the books or the websites or the source of information through which the writer has gathered the particular information. Then we move on to the appendices. Appendices may have tables, charts, Venn diagrams and other graphic pictures that help in understanding the information, simplifying the information in a very calculative manner. We move on to the next slide. Now we'll see step by step how to write a schematic report. The first slide that you see now as a part of the structure is the title of the report. Now see the title. The title of a committee report goes on as the sample is there. This title focuses on the report of a committee appointed to investigate the decline of sales in Gujarat between January and June 2010. That means the title includes the objective of the report, the problem or the issue that was dealt with, and the duration as well as the area. In the individual report, in place of title, there is the subject line. So the title can be modified into the subject line, which goes as Decline in Sales of Cars in Gujarat between January and June 2010. This is the major difference between individual and committee report. There is no title for the individual report as the title gets accommodated in the subject line, but in the schematic or the committee report, we have the title of the report. Now we move on to our next slide, that is the abstract or the terms of reference. Now the question might be arising in your mind, how to write an abstract or what is this term of reference? Abstract is generally an overview of the entire report. An abstract includes the details of the assignment as well as the aims and the objectives for which you are writing the report, and your report will help in taking a decision. Then another aspect that is covered in abstract is the purpose and the scope of the study. Here you can also limit the report, that is whether your report is focusing on the sales of car in Baroda, that is one city, or you are covering 3 or 4 cities, or whether you are covering the entire state of Gujarat. When we come to the terms of reference generally answers the questions who asked whom to write the report and when is the report writer submitting the report. So the terms of reference may include a resolution which gives authority to the report writer to take the probe and investigate the issue. Now one thing that the students need to take care of is the usage of present tense to outline the problem and the aims as well as the terms of reference. Now we move on to the next slide, which focuses on the methodology and the procedure. Here the methodology that you need to adopt is the methodology of gathering information. The students need to take care of the primary and the secondary sources of information that you have approached to gather the relevant information. Now these sources can be in organizational records, reference books, which are definitely the secondary sources of information. The report writer may interview the informants, may administer questionnaires, take the samples so that the information is primary and authentic. The report writer may also visit and personally inspect the suitable places. For example, if you are writing a report on the decline of sales during the last 2 years in Gujarat, then you will visit the company and the branches of that outlet across Gujarat and collect the information regarding the sale of a particular car during the first year, that is 2005 or 2006, and then move on to the second year. So visits, personal inspection, interviews of the people available at the locations that provide you the primary information which you may utilize to analyze, and on the basis of the information gathered you frame your recommendations. Now for language usage in methodology and the procedure section, please take care that you use past tense, as when you are submitting the report, you have already taken care of gathering information. So that is now past. So please focus on the past tense. Another important aspect of language is the usage of impersonal structures. Avoid using first person pronoun, and if you write your sentences in passive voice, personal structure spontaneously and automatically find place in your report. Please see the next slide. Now, how to write and findings and analysis. How to analyze the information that you have already gathered through different primary and secondary sources. Please take care that the information that you have gathered is analyzed as well as presented in the clear and logical sequence. For example, if you have gathered information by personally visiting the location, interviewing the informants, gathering information from the secondary sources, that is the records or the websites of the organization, then the sequence of presenting the information in findings and analysis should be the same in which you have gathered information. A report writing should always be authentic, and students, when they are writing the report, they are in their own imaginary and visualized world, because they focus on the question or the problem that is given to you. So your duty is to make that imaginary report look authentic, and charts, tables, graphs, pictures, they are instrumental in demonstrating the information as well as authenticizing the information. So, in findings and analysis, the usage of tables, graphs and picture to analyze the information makes that report look authentic, is presentable, and the information is simplified. Now, next point, explain and argue for the interpretation of evidence in the report. What's more important in findings and analysis is how you interpret the information that is gathered and how you present it in the form of evidence, because on the basis of these evidences, you will base your recommendations that may be instrumental in resolving a problem. Again, if we move on to the language usage in this particular section, past tense is again required, as past tense focuses on the analysis that you have already done and now you are presenting it. Again, impersonal structures and passive voice for the findings and analysis is recommended. If, in case, the process of investigation is still going on, then the students need to take care that present tense is included in the sentences. Please form sentences in present tense if you are mentioning an ongoing process of investigation and analysis during your report writing. Now we move on to the next section, how to write a conclusion. A conclusion is a summary or the overall idea of the report is presented through conclusion. The conclusion also includes the steps through which you have carried out the report, how you gathered information, how you analyzed the information, and what are your findings. Conclusion is always based on the information gathered and the findings which are the consequence of the gathered information. As conclusion signifies the vitality of the issue, conclusion signifies the seriousness or the criticality of a problem, conclusion focuses on the consequence or the outcome of the entire process of report writing. No other information should be included in conclusion except your consequences and the outcome of the report that you will be presenting in fewer sentences, limiting it to 1 or 2 paragraphs. In the next slide, now we focus on writing recommendations. Recommendations are proposals for actions suggested by the report writer. In an individual report, the recommendations are provided in the form of the last segment of the letter, whereas in schematic report, the recommendations find place after conclusion. The important thing to be remembered is recommendations should be written in the same order as the problem is stated. So students need to keep in mind that they not only present the information in findings and analysis in a particular logical sequence, they also need to focus and write on the recommendations as the information has already been presented in findings and analysis. So make sure that the sequence that you have maintained in findings and analysis is continued also in the recommendations. Proper numbering of recommendations, proper sequencing of the recommendations according to their objectivity is a must. That is, we need to follow the reverse order. The most important recommendation, the most vital recommendation that gives the gist of the entire problem should be numbered first, and then we move on in the descending order. One needs to take care that the tense that should be used in presenting recommendations, in writing recommendations, should be either present tense with to infinitive or use modal should to write the recommendations. We will, in the due course of the lecture, we will see the samples of both individual as well as report writing so that it may give you a clear idea of the differences between the two. Now we move on to the next slide, which gives the entire summary of report writing, starting from the authority that you are delegated to by someone to probe the problem, to investigate and look into an issue. On the basis of that, you form your action plan, and on the basis of the action plan, you prioritize the sources of information and then you gather information accordingly. After that, you analyze the information systematically on the basis of the information gathered and the evidences that you have collected that are relevant to the issue or the problem. Then findings and analysis make the backbone of the report writing, and when you start drafting the report, make sure that first you present a rough draft and then you move on to editing, rereading and rewriting the draft so that you have first draft available in your hands. Again, you review the report and again go through the process of editing, reading, rereading and ready the second draft and finalize the report. Now the next step and the last is submit the report in the due time so that it speaks about the level of your commitment. This was a summary of the entire report writing. So what are the keys to report writing? The keys focuses on 4 points. Think, plan, organize a report. you need to think in terms of prioritizing the activities and having an action plan to draft the report. You need to organize the information collected in the proper sequence. You need to draft the report, have first draft, second draft, final draft, and finally Eureka. That's you have written the report. Now, on the basis of the discussion or the interaction that we had, if we move on to an activity that may help you understand the information more importantly, please see the slides. The first activity in the form of an exercise is, you can do it in your notebooks. The first point is, and the first question is, arrange the given sections of a report in proper order. We have already discussed the structure of the report. The structure of the report incorporated title, abstract, findings and analysis, methodology, conclusion, recommendations and the terms of reference along with appendices. Here, there are 5 components given. Please arrange these 5 components in the proper order. I hope you might have got the right answer. If you place out of these components, you would place methodology first or terms of reference. The first point will definitely be the terms of reference. Then the second section after terms of reference will be methodology of gathering information. If we move on to the third point in the sequence, we have findings and analysis. After findings and analysis, we have the conclusive section, and then the last section will be of recommendations. So this is a simple objective question that would help you understand the sequencing or the structuring of the report. Now, the next exercise that we may have will be, state whether the following statements are true or false. This exercise and the statements given here are already based on the discussion we had and the interaction we had in the presentation. Take the first statement. The statement goes, individual and committee report are same in structure. Whether this is true or false? This is false. Individual report is written in the letter format. Committee report is written in the schematic format. Second statement, a committee report is always written in the schematic form. State whether this is true or false. Yes, this is true. Committee report is always written in the schematic form. If we take the next statement, the statement goes, a committee report must be signed by all the members. Definitely, the statement is true because all the members, including the chairperson, need to authenticize the report. The last statement goes, an individual report may be in the letter form or the schematic form. This is false, as the individual report may be in the letter format. This is the end of our presentation. Now I would like to show you the samples of the individual as well as the committee report. Please wait for a few seconds so that I may give you the samples of individual and the committee report, which you may have on your slide in the form of the Word document. Students, please pay attention to the slide that will be there on your screen. Shall we have the screen? Shall we have the individual report on the screen, please? Let's see. This is the sample of an individual report which is written in the form of a letter. the report goes. First, as we have already looked into the structure of the report, the date, the receiver, that is the managing director of opaque tiles. Then we move on to the salutation, which is again an important component of any letter. And as we have already discussed, that individual report does not have a title. Instead, the title is incorporated in the subject line. So here, in this individual report, the subject goes as decline of sales of opaque tiles. Now we have the body of the letter. The body of the letter first introduces the task or the assignment and the terms of reference that we have already studied and discussed earlier. The first paragraph signifies who was given the authority by whom, what was the issue, and when will the report writer submit the report. In the para 2, as this report deals on the decline of sales of opaque tiles in the last 2 years, that is till August 2010, the report writer in the second paragraph focuses on the causes of decline in the sales of tiles in the market. So the causes are discussed sequentially and logically. In the third paragraph, the report writer focuses on the conclusive part and provides information regarding the comprehensive decline due to the market factors and the change in taste of the customers, and then move on consequently to the recommendations. If we see the recommendations, these recommendations are written in the proper sequence, and these recommendations logically present the solution of the problem and assign the authority to take the proper decisions based on these recommendations. Now you can see on your slide that the recommendations are properly sequenced, as the first recommendation that we may read will be: an experienced designer should be appointed to create new designs for our slide, for our tiles. The second recommendation focuses on the color scheme that the company needs to adopt so that they can suit and provide tiles according to the changing taste of the customers. These recommendations, when considered by the authority, may result in a decision that will help in improving the sales of the particular company. Now, seen after recommendations, we have the complementary clause, and then beneath that we have the signature and the designation as well as the name of the report writer. So this was an individual report that was written in the letter format. Now we have the sample of the committee report. You can very well identify and mark the differences between the individual and the committee report, as the committee report has a style, whereas the individual report had a subject line. Now, the terms of reference, the procedures that are numbered in proper sequence, the findings and analysis, which again focus on the causes of decline or the causes of unrest, as the title of this report is based on the workers' unrest in a manufacturing unit. After findings and analysis, you properly number the various conclusion. Now mind it, conclusion can be in the form of a single para or in the form of the elaborated points, and we have conclusion numbered and elaborated as points. Then in the last section you find recommendations that is provided by the report writer, which was a committee of 2 members, as you can see, Mr. B.C. Dalal and Mr. Subodh Desai. So this is the sample of committee report. If you go through these samples, you may definitely be able to distinguish the 2 reports. Not only distinguish their structures, the language, the pattern of writing, and you may have a confidence in you, and report writing may not now give you jitters. Please frame your own questions, objective questions, discuss these questions among yourselves, and practice report writing. Report writing is an official document. It is a legal document. It is the example of formal communication in any organization or in any stream. What you need to do is practice report writing. No one can write a report in just 1 hour or few days. One need to develop that habit of writing sentences in the personal as well as the impersonal structures. One need to develop the habit of editing, reading, rereading the draft so that you have rough draft, first draft and the final draft. And most importantly, pay attention to the language as well as the voice that may be used in your report writing. So, I hope at the end of this lecture, you might have gathered some ideas about individual as well as the committee reports, and in future this information will help you draft an effective and impressive report. Thank you.